Ooh.
That's scary, isn't it? Okay, we're just going to give people a few minutes to jump on to this session of Millicent Unplugged. And I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. And we'll start with our land acknowledgement at the Millicent Rogers Museum. We are located on ancestral lands of the Tiwa-speaking people known today as the Red Willow people of Taos Pueblo. We strive to deepen our relationship with the Red Willow people through collaborations while acknowledging and honoring the complex history of the Red Willow people, past, present, and future. We express gratitude to this land and to the Taos Pueblo elders and ancestors who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. Tonight's topic is liquid celebrations, holidays. Well, as in water. No.
Yeah.
Food and wine pairings. Thank you for joining us as we embark on this conversation of seasonal food and wine pairings with our guest experts on grape and plate in New Mexico. Festive ideas for any holiday table are sure to emerge through this conversation. I'm sorry, I just lost track of my thought. I would like to introduce co-owners of Vivác Winery. Vivác is a mountaineering term meaning high altitude refuge. It is seated at 6,000 feet, making it one of the highest altitude wineries in the world. Their old world style wines showcase the elegance of high altitude and cool climate farming. Jesse and Michele are two of the 4 owners with us today. Jesse and his brother are the winemakers. Michele and her sister-in-law, Liliana, run the business side. Both families are raising their families in Dixon, where the winemakers grew up. Michele is also an international wine competition judge, wine writer, and educator. Jesse has been the New Mexico Wine Association president for the past 3 years, stepping down this past year in order to travel extensively with the family. Both are certified advanced sommeliers. Learn more about Vivác offerings at their website, vivacwinery.com. So welcome, Michele and Jesse. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Karen, for having us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And Chef Johnny Vee is the director of the Las Cosas Cooking School and freelance food writer for New Mexico Magazine and the Santa Fe New Mexican. He is also a super chef working with cooking with kids in local schools, where he mentors young chefs as he shares his knowledge and love of the wonderful world of food. Explore recipes, shop Las Cosas online products, and check out the blog at chefjohnnyvee.com, and that's Chef Johnny Vee, right, Johnny?
And there's my cookbook. If
yes,
you
and purchase his book. All right. Already got chatting going on, Sarah. So let me just give a little bit of housekeeping information. So this is a webinar format, and we're going to have a lovely conversation. Attendees, feel free to use the chat feature to talk to each other. You can also put questions in there, but at the end, we'll leave some Q&A time as well. So Sarah, take it away.
Well, I got to start with the girl thing.
Okay.
We girls who think we can do, I don't know, half a dozen things at once, just ordinarily. We get to the holiday season and then it's, oh my goodness, what do we do now? Because everybody expects this incredible entertainment. People come in, they say, oh, but I just want to invite 2 more friends. Or and it's like, how do I do this? And we are not necessarily experts. We know what we like food-wise and wine-wise, but then we want it extra special. And everything has to be timing and perfect. And so, Michele, I got to start with you because you're the other girl here who knows how to get that celebration going and not panic totally in advance or collapse dead the day after.
You are absolutely right. There is so much pressure, and those last minute changes do really blow our minds because we are trying to keep everything as perfect as possible. And the number one thing that I can recommend is that you have plenty of wine on hand. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a sommelier and part of the winery. I actually mean, because, you know, that is the number one thing that they teach in fine dining as well, is that you take the drink order and you get the drinks in hand immediately. People feel a lot more relaxed when they have a drink in hand, and then they can be social. Food can take a little bit longer, but if you don't have that glass of wine in hand where you've run out of wine, I mean, my gosh, that's the worst case scenario. Then people really start to get a little cranky. And so that is my number one thing that you can do, that you can do to just have, even if things aren't going to go to plan, you need to add chairs, you need to add another table, something got burnt. People are going to actually really look the other way for some of those things and just enjoy each other's company as long as there's wine in the glass.
I want to ask really quickly, Sarah, I'm so sorry, but I want to jump in because I needed to ask, how do you determine how much wine you're going to need?
Great question. Great question.
Yep. Yes, it is. And so it really does depend on, one, how many people you're having, of course, but how long the meal or the gathering is going to take. Because usually around the holidays, people imbibe a little bit more. So you actually want to take that count and increase it slightly. So generally speaking, you would be thinking that everybody, you know, there's people that don't indulge in alcoholic beverages. So
not that we know any of them, but
not here.
I tend to drink their portion, so that's fine. But it is important to think about that, you know, you're looking at the initial hour that people join a party. They actually drink faster and then they slow down a little bit. So you want to consider a full glass of wine for every half hour in that first hour to hour and a half. And then you can pull back from there and you can get more out of a bottle too. So the size of pour is generally a little heavier in the beginning part of a party or a dinner. And then you can pull it back. It actually gets a little less as the dinner continues. People do start getting a little loopy. And so you want them to be able to taste the wines as you've got them paired, but not, you know, fall asleep during the dinner.
Well, there's something, Michele, hold up your beautiful glass. There is something that is so delightful about having the glass in hand, even if it is sparkling juice or club soda or whatever. Somehow that makes you feel like it's a special occasion. And Johnny, you as in the times when you perform as the personal chef for an occasion, how do you feel about the volume of wine? Do you find that
people often, and Michele and I actually this summer, this fall, did a dinner for some people that won a weekend in Santa Fe from an auction in Dallas, I think. And Michele came and did a fabulous wine tasting while I prepared the dinner, and I think they drank more than we expected. They drank Michelle's samples, and then we kept going. They were staying in the house, which they did not have to travel. But yeah, people do. I want people to be aware of, are you traveling or not? If you're not, you know, I think you can up the amount a little bit. My question to Michele, which was so helpful, how do we judge how much red and how much white? Like if I've got 12 people, how do I don't know these people, do we have 8 bottles of white and 4 bottles of red? But Michele, what did you tell me? I can't remember.
Generally, people are heavier red wine drinkers, especially as it continues into the evening. So if you have a daytime event, you could do a 50-50. And even better than that is to invest in a dry rosé, which makes everybody happy and is super food friendly. And then as you work into the evening, it is more of a 80% red wine focus.
Also,
there's 5 glasses of wine per bottle, Michelle. 5.
Yeah, if it's in that first hour, count it as 4, and then you pull back, and then you do 5 per bottle after that first hour, and then that final pour you can pull back to 6.
And it's 1 bottle per chef, right?
Yes.
or 2. Okay.
1 bottle while he's working, or they're working, and count the other bottle for after they're done with their last course, if it's going to continue any longer. If I know.
We don't trust any chef who doesn't tipple while the cooking is going on.
I'm actually a non-tippler when I'm cooking, because, and it's kind of frustrating for some of the clients I go to their house. They have like, 10,000 bottle wine cellar. Mm-hmm. They want to impress me, but I feel like I'm working and I have my staff with me. I'll take a bottle home though. But,
well, if you went to the Palazzo, and of course they put you up overnight because it's a 3-day affair.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, it's funny. I tell people pretty much the only nights I don't drink are the nights I'm working. So thank God I do work a couple nights a week. Otherwise, I might not get anything done. So. But I do know a lot of chefs that drink throughout the evening. Got to make sure that food gets to the table anyway.
I was going to get back to what Sarah, you were saying earlier about the glassware and stuff like that. Even for the non-drinkers and the children, we've always poured everything in a wine glass. Their sparkling waters, their juices, their regular waters, whatever it is, because everyone likes to feel a little fancy and included. This isn't just about alcohol consumers. It's about everybody. And these are nice glasses. A good wine glass is a great glass to drink beer out of, a great glass to drink water out of. Everything tastes a little bit better out of a fine
And don't forget those people. Michelle, I think that night we were together, one of the women didn't drink. And we were, not that we were overdoing it, but Michelle did a wine tasting and she got a little testy towards the evening because everybody else at the table was pretty well,
Everybody was enjoying themselves and she wanted to move along.
Yeah. So I think she asked me where the nearest dispensary was, which I thought was a good question, right? In New Mexico. Anyway.
Oh my.
But yeah, don't forget to have for the children and for anybody that might not drink, don't just give them a glass of water or some Pellegrino. There's so many interesting non-alcoholic beverages out there.
I'm glad you brought that up, Chef Johnny, because that's what I always kind of like to go to. Okay, make sure we have water bottles. But what you're saying is really we can be much more creative than that. And that's such a great idea. Do you have any specific suggestion?
Well, there's a lot of, I've been reading in all the food magazines, bars that do really interesting cocktails without alcohol. And they make syrup, and they make pineapple jalapeno syrup and drizzle it into sparkling water. Or they make, what are they called? Also, is it a grub? There's like a drink that has herbs in it, but it's not alcoholic. But it shows your guests that I'm glad you're here, and I don't mind that you're not joining the fray. And certainly nowadays.
We have a comment from a reader that says she makes homemade root beer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is kind of a funny thing.
And I'm going to date myself with Shirley Temples and Roy Rogers, right?
Exactly.
You guys know what those
I grew up on those. That's the original mocktails, and you know they get fancier than that now, but those are classics and fabulous. And we have a daughter, 16 years old. We travel the world with her. She always gets some kind of mocktail everywhere we go, and loves it. Really feels special and fancy and part of the thing.
That's it.
Exactly.
Somebody said that's where. Yeah, and Jesse, they still charge you $10 for the non-alcoholic drink.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It works for the restaurant.
Free at all.
So we have one of our guests that said, or a shrub. What's a shrub now?
That's like it's a non-alcoholic infused water with Michele, like herbs, and I don't know if it's not fermented like kombucha.
Okay.
Kind of the new rage in the alcohol set.
Mm-hmm.
I think you steep it, you know, it'd be like infused water. There might be rosemary in there and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I actually believe I don't like to drink water when I'm eating because, well, it dilutes your gastric juices, washes away your palate of every bite. The reason wine goes so well with food is you take a bite of food and then a sip of wine, and it augments what you're tasting. You know, it can delicious flavor, whereas water wipes your palate away.
Absolutely.
That shrub also has a bit of vinegar in them.
Yes.
Southern
yes. A
Like
comment came in saying just exactly that. And I think this is very interesting. So I want to appeal to the masculine drinker because my husband turns up his nose at most white wines.
Okay.
And is very much into a pretty serious Cabernet is his favorite. Of course, if I go to a ladies' party, Prosecco gets gone. That's the first thing. My bottle's empty before anybody else's. It's very interesting. Do you see, Jesse, that might be a question for you. Do you see a more masculine preference for red?
Traditionally, yes, but I think it's cultural a little bit. I think ladies going wild has always been like day drinking or whatever. Like the ladies always do white wine or spritzers or rosé or something like that. And guys, we've always just had beers. The guys drink during the day or whatever if we're gonna do day drinking. I challenge every guy there's the new trend rosé or whatever like that. But rosé is a red wine drinker's white wine, in my opinion. I love rosé. I love it, love it, love it. I love whites as well, but I'm a little biased towards wine or whatever in general. But it does not need to be that way.
Also, change up the cup.
But it's also a very personal thing. Like everybody's pH, their own body, what works well with them. Some people are just going to gravitate towards white or a higher acidity wine. Some people are going to shy away or go towards a high tannic wine just based on what their personal body chemistry is and how it reacts with wine. And that's a huge part of why we like what we do. So if somebody just loves lots of tannins, they're going to always love big wines. Day, night, doesn't matter. And that could be male or female. It doesn't, that also shouldn't necessarily matter. I think it was more the timing why ladies have gotten pinned with the whites and rosés and men have gotten pinned with reds. But it's not a hard and fast rule. And I don't think we need to be eliminating quiche or rosé from our palates because those are two of the best things in the world.
No, not at all. What I was moving into was to ask, particularly you gentlemen, about does the preference for the red wines and again the heavier what I think are more delicious myself, but does that go better with your gentleman's steak, with the indigenous elk, as opposed to a lighter fare? What, as you design dinners, and I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of the entertainment is to pair it.
Yeah, let me jump in because I always, you know, and Michele and I sent Michele the menu we were going to do for this dinner, and then she chose the wine. But it was important that she knew what we were cooking. And then, you know, maybe the steak, I would definitely go with a heavier red, but a duck could go either way. The French even love red wine with red snapper, for example, like the meatier fishes and stuff. So I think I do want to make sure the red wine is not going to compete with what the main course is, for example. But a red wine drinker might say, well, I'm going to drink red wine anyway, and that's fine. Like Jesse said, no hard and fast rule.
Well, and I think it's important to think about red wine is more than just our Cabernets, even though a lot of people, that's what jumps to mind. And so there are tons and tons of amazing varietals. So there's Pinot Noir and Nebbiolo that are on the lighter range that can pair with, you know, bigger, bolder fish. Yeah. And even, you know, you also want to think about the sauces that you're using. So if you're making a chicken dish, but you have a very prominent sauce, you're actually pairing with the sauce. And if you're doing a very rare steak, a Pinot Noir or Nebbiolo is actually going to make that sing as a combination rather than a Cabernet. But the flavor, the very light, unique, amazing, earthy, mineral aspects in that steak. If you're doing a pepper steak, maybe even going a big, heavy char on a barbecue kind of thing, then you do want that tannin to kind of pair with that and be able to stand up to it. So you are looking at finessing your red wines as well. It doesn't just have to be white versus red.
And there's
That's a great comment.
Yeah.
Sorry.
With the whites.
Because I mentioned the Cabernets because that's what is prevalent in our household. And that was a great thought about how you're looking to the sauce as opposed to what we do, which is very plain cooking. I mean, it's put the steak on the barbecue and braised vegetables, and then just the wine goes with it. And you can understand why we would have chosen that heavier. But with Johnny's things, where he is manipulating this wonderful other flavors to go on it, see, we're just amateurs in comparison to that. And the idea of the Pinot Noirs, the Merlots, those things, first class advice, my opinion.
Well, Michele laughed because was it vinegar, Michele? Vinegar's murder on wine. There is no pairing for vinegar. I think I had a salad with balsamic. You're like,
Johnny is wonderful to work with because he is one of those enthusiastic chefs where he wants this to be an amazing experience for somebody on multiple levels. And when you combine wine with a dish, it can really elevate the flavors, not only in the dish, but also in the wine. There's a chemistry happening. It is fascinating. I'll try not to geek out on everybody, but if anybody wanted to hear more about that, you can email me and I'll, you know, give you a rundown. But the idea is that there is a chemistry happening not only in your body, but between the food and the flavors, the acid in the wine, the salt in the food. And to work with a chef where they really are open and interested in that. So he will create something exquisite and he will say, I love everything except that one little element. Can we remove that? And what if it was this? And he says, oh, yes, actually that inspired me to go down this other path. And we create something new together. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so may I come back to that, the amateur lady entertaining for the holidays, where do you go to get the information? Because, for instance, if you go to the big wine store, there are literally thousands of bottles.
Yeah.
And how do you know? You can't taste it. And of course you can't taste it with the food. So how would you know what went? Where does the diligent hostess go for the advice?
Well, the number one thing that I would recommend is that you come to me and I will help you pair.
Who knew?
Yes, for free. I will pair your meal, and obviously at the top of the list will be Vivác choices because, you know, but I can assist, and that is part of what we love about what we do is we do make award-winning wines that are winning awards all over the world, just to throw that in there. But we love wine. We love food and wine, and we want to help you. And we are native New Mexicans, and any of our friends that are struggling to figure out what is going to pair, we're happy to help. If we can get wine on your table, we are really excited about that. We want more wine drinkers.
It doesn't have to be our wines. We have lots of options for lots of things, but we also have great knowledge about the world of wines and what's going to pair best with Johnny's food. Like there's so many things, and we want you to love wine just as much as we want you to love us. So
the tasting room.
Because I want to comment, because this is a recording, and so for future audience who won't see the chat, I want to read some of the chat. So one of our attendees made the comment back when you were talking about the vinegar, Michele, that must be why in Italy the dressing on salad is olive oil and salt only, and there's no vinegar. So great comment. And then also George, he was going to say that tasting rooms are the best, so you can taste.
Yeah, the Dixon. Yeah, Dixon.
Have those conversations. So segueing a little bit, I would like to kind of ask two questions. One is, Michele, I don't think we mind if you geek out a little bit, because I think some of our audience would really kind of like to know the sommelier. You know, I'm serious. People are afraid to ask questions at times. So I think a little bit of that would be nice. Also, if the three of you could sort of address what kind of pairings go well with those flavors of our region, the New Mexican flavors, especially if, so here's an example. One of my favorite dishes is a portobello mushroom based dish. It's vegan. So what do you pair with vegan foods?
Good question.
You know, vegan foods are not that different than non-vegan foods. You're still looking at what is the prominent flavor on the plate. So isolate that. And I know that can be tricky because side dishes can become very, very flavorful, but you really want to put the main dish as the focus and then decide, is it the portobello mushroom that's really going to shine through with just a simple olive oil and salt, as that clever person was just mentioning about the salads in Italy. But you can do that with so many, where it really showcases either the meat, you can do the same thing, or the portobello mushroom. But if you suddenly start to stuff that mushroom with other things, and those things are herbed, and starting to get more and more flavorful, you want to start paying attention to those flavors. The more intense the dish becomes, the more bold you want the wine.
Yeah.
So you can use that, as Jesse was saying earlier, that it's the same thing with white wine too. You have a huge range, and so you can actually get a very full-bodied white wine to pair with some meals that maybe you might not think you could, including meat, including a steak, especially if it's on a rarer side. And those aspects are really important. So with a vegan dish, you know, a lot of times there's a lot of flavor components that are being added in. And so a lot of that is sometimes spice, and spice can be very dominant, and you want to make sure that you make that wine a little bit bolder. Were you gonna say something?
I was gonna ask you. I was gonna say, give some examples. Like, so the mushrooms sautéed in oil, where are you going with that? So it's kind of a salty, olive oily, sauteed mushroom.
Right. So yeah.
Give specifics. That's all I mean to say.
So actually, a mushroom that's been sort of marinated, very spicy, on a bed of like a corn relish with the red and green peppers, and then with some goat cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So with goat cheese is actually very flavorful. You're also talking about a lot of salt components. The cheese is very salty, the peppers and all of that is a salty component. And so you actually want to have a more high acid wine. So that's not just white wines, which do showcase their acidity, but also lighter bodied red wines really showcase their acidity. So cool climate, if this gets a little nuanced, please message me, but cool climate red wines, which is either high altitude, we're at 6,000 feet, for example, that's extremely high altitude in the wine world. Those create higher acid red wines. There's also certain varietals such as Pinot Noir that can really showcase that. Of course, Pinot Noir is being made all over the world, so you do get jammier versions. But generally speaking, there are grapes that actually showcase great acidity. And the acidity in a wine actually cancels out that heavy salt component in the food, and the salt component in the food actually cancels out some of that acidity in the wine. So when you have them in combination, you get richer flavors, not only in the food, but fruitier flavors, depth in the wine. And so it actually transforms your experience of both the food and the wine when you have that combination.
Mm-hmm.
We just got the good lesson. How come she is an advanced sommelier? I think that told you the whole thing. We need nothing more than we need to know.
Well, and often, or most often, my customers, my customers want New Mexico themed dinner. Yep. So I'm certainly including red chili, green chili, cumin, Mexican oregano, all those flavors. And I always recommend, especially with spicy green chili, definitely a sweeter white wine. Because as much as we say, I'm a Sauvignon Blanc drinker, but when you want to cut some of that heat, a sweeter wine is good. And then like with carne adobado, which is our state dish, I would probably go Pinot Noir, because typically done with pork, and pork, of course, can go a lighter. Oh, there's Tommy. That's Tommy there.
What's up, Tommy?
Your sous chef?
Yeah.
Or is that the pinche in the kitchen doing the vegetables?
Or like Pinot Noir for pork, rather than a heavy, a heavier red. But
I like Pinot Noir with tamales.
Great idea.
Okay,
so,
now let's move to another thing. Sometimes the celebrations are a walking dinner that's all waiters with trays and various little bites of things. That's very popular. What do you do then? Do you have a variety of wines, or do you stick with something like the rosé? Jesse, maybe that's a good one for you.
I tend to like higher acidity wines for pairing with any food in general, almost always, unless it's very specific not to. So like if it's just going to be, many versions of whatever it may be, like some people are going to choose this, some people are going to choose that. I would go with a decently high acidity white, rosé, bubbly is always high acidity almost. And then your light or medium bodied reds are usually higher acidity. And I would just pour those. Those are going to pair more commonly with most things. Lots of people want a Cabernet or a Merlot, or, let's call it Cabernet, bigger red, just because they think that that's for sure what they like. But I would go with one that's not like the jammiest one that you know of. Like that's usually not going to be as friendly with the wines. So we go with the leaner ones that people don't know that they love necessarily, but it's going to pair with more of your options on the plate.
For the purpose of our listeners, please be a little geeky. When you say jammy, what does that mean on the palate? And when you say more acid, what does that mean as you're actually tasting it? Let's say the experts answer this.
So jammy is going to be, in theory, any dry wine that comes across as super fruity. Like think of your Old Vine Zins or even Oregon Pinots. Most of the Cabernets, most of the run-of-the-mill Merlots, things like that are going to be jammier, I guess. Syrahs, a lot of times from Australia or something like that. That's a jammy wine that's great to drink on its own, full body, luscious, but it doesn't pair. Yeah, but it doesn't pair necessarily so well with food unless your steak is.
It's just for sipping. I agree with that one.
And then anything that anything that's acidic is gonna, when it hits your palate, it's gonna be a bright spot. You're gonna be like, it's gonna zing you a little bit. You'll be like, ooh, wow, and you'll salivate a little bit. That salivation is part of why it goes so well with food. It makes you salivate. You're getting ready for the food. It helps you digest when you're eating the food. All that makes that just amounts to yumminess. The food is that, salt in food is why you salivate. Acid in wine is why you salivate. And they go together.
That's grand. I will say that at home here, since we started cooking for each other a few years ago, well, you don't go out. What do? And we have wine several days a week and candlelight every night. And
wow.
It's a whole big thing. And so that brings me to ask Chef Johnny, when you are cooking on an evening of celebration or whatever it may be, you are actually part of the entertainment, not just the provider of this feast. Is that not so?
That is so. And I have to tell you a funny story. A couple of years ago, I got offered a gig by some people that were renting a house to a big theatrical producer from New York who was coming with his family. So the producer guy wanted to know who I was and whether I would be, good for them. Well, I have a little video online that shows me in action. So the next day after these people watched my video, they called the people that managed the house and said, we're around theatrical people all the time. When we come to Santa Fe, we'd like to be with somebody that's a little less theatrical than Johnny Vee. A chef that cooks. We don't need to be entertained. The bullet with having to cook for those people.
Well, I think they're off the list now.
I know, really. But,
I don't like that.
Because I teach at Las Cosas, I do 3 classes a week. I like to always offer and bring recipes for my people that we're cooking for. And I give them a little education about each dish. Rather than just serve it and say, here, I'll say, the first course is blah, blah, blah. Going back to that idea of olive oil and salt as the original dressing in Italy, the word insalata means with salt. So you're right. The original salad, long before vinegar or lemon was added, was olive oil first and then salt. But give people these little tidbits. I don't want to bore them to death so they can't enjoy their. They all want to know about chilies. They all want to know what indigenous dishes are here. So I kind of call it my dog and pony show.
Well, and I would like to interject because we have actually taken Johnny's classes long before we started working together professionally. We just took them for fun. They were given to us as a gift for Christmas. And It was fantastic. It was so much fun. And part of the fun is that he is engaging and so delightful and entertaining. The time goes so fast. And before you know it, you have created this amazing dish that you can't even believe that you've made. And you are able to take those recipes home and recreate them because he's taught you all the tricks that actually make that work. Because you can read a recipe and you can read the details on how to try to trick it out, but it often just doesn't, it's lackluster and you're not sure why it doesn't taste like when you're at the restaurant, and he teaches you those tricks.
No. We do hands-on classes. So if I'm teaching a tamale, you're going to roll them. You're not going to watch me. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing, the Padberg family ended up in my cookbook. Like they were there one of the nights. We were filming for my cookbook
again, won't you, Johnny?
So the whole family's in there from 15 years ago, probably.
I can't imagine wanting to have an experience with less theatricalness than Johnny Vee gives. Hanging out anywhere in the vicinity of Johnny Vee is one of the most fun things that ever happens to me, and I cherish the times that it happens. 1 or 2 or 3 times a year.
The other fabulous thing I get to do is at Vivác Vineyards, they host picking parties in October, and all the lucky grape pickers get to go back to the family home, sit in this gorgeous outdoor garden, and get a full meal paired with wine. In a couple of years running, I've done the actual meal menu and prepared the meal for, what do we have, 40 people, I think, this past October. Fun. And I always come out and tell a couple of jokes that may or may not be appropriate. But, and, it's a great afternoon. Don't they start at 7 a.m., Michelle, or something? Or
we've rolled it back. We now allow people to start at 9.
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah, they pick for 3 hours, but it's more work than it sounds like. And then we come back and get a little winery tour, and then we end up having a fabulous meal with Johnny Vee or somebody awesome, not quite as awesome, but somebody else that's also good or whatever sometimes.
Or they don't show up, which is
right.
That's always fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, we're just gonna do straight Johnny Vee from now on. If we could arm wrestle him into it.
I have a question about sweets. If we can shift a little bit into the dessert realm of pairings, if you want to have some a dessert wine or the wine with chocolates.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things. One of the things that I do want to isolate is a difference between fruity in the wine and sweet. So fruit can come across very bold, and a lot of people call that sweet, whereas it is actually a 1% or less residual sugar, but that fruit is very dominant in the wine. And then there are sweet wines where the perception of sugar is very much a part of your experience on your palate. So there is a very significant difference, and you can pair all kinds of different things. As Johnny Vee was saying, you can pair a actually sweet wine with something spicy. You can also pair a very spicy meal with something that is just fruit forward. So the heavier, jammier wines like Jesse was talking about are often really great with those red chili, intense kind of meals that we really enjoy here in New Mexico. So then when you start getting into sweets, you always want to remember that the wine should be sweeter than the dish. So that can be fruitier, especially if you have, for example, a flourless chocolate torte, where the sweetness in the dessert is not that high. And so a very rich fruit-forward red is actually fantastic as a pairing. And that's where you start to get into these nuances of the chocolate and red wine pairing, which I actually just gave a class at the American Wine Society National Conference about how to pair wine with chocolate in a very unique way, because it is so much more than just these ideas of red wine goes with chocolate, because chocolate can be so many things these days, and red wine is so many things. So really isolating that you want to make sure that the fruit forward quality of the wine or sweetness is more intense than the dessert. And of course, the number one, everybody wants to put ice cream on something. It is a wine killer. It's like vinegar.
Wow,
interesting. Well, you are talking, you know, about two of the major food groups, the chocolate and the wine. Now, if we add peanut butter and jalapenos, we're pretty much what we need human-wise, it would seem to me.
Really? Right.
That's all four of them right there. That's all four of them. I agree.
And you know, I'm a big fan of sparkling wine.
Yes.
Thinking for the holidays, rosés are great, but I think kicking off an evening with some sparkling wine is celebratory, and even maybe if not then at dessert, you know.
Yes.
That might be tricky with chocolate, but if it's a fruit dessert or, you know.
Actually, one of my favorite things for my 40th birthday, Jesse threw me a very lovely dinner party, and the chef is a childhood friend of ours that created this incredible menu, and he created this dark chocolate mousse, and I paired it with a sparkling rosé champagne, and my friends in the industry were like, what? That's not a pairing. And I was like, oh, it's going to be amazing. And it was phenomenal. I highly suggest sparkling wines for desserts. And I actually really think that you should play with port as an intro to your meal, because it is not only a great digestive, which gets your stomach acids going, and is phenomenal with warm nuts and cheeses. It's also really unique for a lot of people to experience that. So you're already being a wow for your guests.
That's true.
Johnny, you took the idea right out of my mouth, because no pun intended, because I was going to ask you about sparkling wines, because of course that's what everybody thinks. You're having a wedding, you're having Christmas, and it is the time to bring out the fine sparkling wines or champagnes or méthode champenoise, something of this sort. Do you make any of these at Vivác? I don't know.
We do not yet. Maybe one day. It's a whole new
different
process.
Thing, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a whole new process. We're hoping to, but you also need new equipment, which demands more space, which means even more money than just the new equipment, because you need new buildings and stuff. But eventually, yes, and we're big fans of sparkling. We really can't wait, and we don't say because we don't make it that you shouldn't partake of that. I think every holiday needs some sparkling wine in there, and it goes great with chocolate. Just straight chocolate mousse, especially if you have like a small raspberry drizzle or something on there. Like, it just makes it like. And I actually recommend Brut more than anything else for the driest of the dry sparkling wines. Those wines are so high in acidity that they there's a lot of pairing abilities there that it can go with lots of things. And one more weird little thing about pairing is if you're a fan of Cabernet, drink Cabernet with whatever you're eating, because you're gonna like it more. If you like a sweet white, just drink your sweet white with all the stuff. If you like bubbly, it's gonna, if you just love that more than anything else, you might like that no matter what's being served. So you're not wrong. That's one of the weird things. The wine industry has gone wrong, and for so many years, in saying that, only white with fish and only red with
those days are gone. Yeah.
We've kicked ourselves in the foot for so long, saying that there's these hard and fast rules in your gauche if you don't do it, and you have to know all these things. It's total bull. We're just like beer. Drink what you like. But if you want to get into the nuances, you can geek out for sure, and that's what we're doing here today. But everyone should know they're not wrong if they like something.
And it should not be made to feel bad if you want to bring. We have had many a dinner party where somebody brings the wine that they know that we're going to be serving dry wine contingent throughout the evening, and they bring wine that they like because they like something quite a bit sweeter. After having them over a couple of times, we now know to have some sweet wine on hand for them. We do make some sweet wines too. So, it's one of those things where we just want people to enjoy themselves and enjoy drinking wine. And so if that's a sweet wine, if it's a sparkling wine, if it's, whatever it is, just enjoy yourself.
I don't know. You probably know, you have a restaurant, or I think it's closed, Common Fire. Andy Lynch that opened that, I worked with years ago. Absolute classic, fantastic guy. And he taught wine pairing classes for me at Las Cosas. And his saying about wine is the best wine you will ever have is the one that's in the glass you're holding.
That's right.
Absolutely no highfalutin, frowning down on somebody's wine taste, I like to be educated. I do rely on my restaurant friends. Like I always order Sauvignon Blanc or Sancerre or Chablis. And I'll go to a restaurant here called 315. My friend Lewis is the owner. And he'll say, no, you're not drinking Sauvignon Blanc tonight. I'm going to bring you something that you've never tried. And I'm like, so it's good to, let people educate you a little bit. But Michele, I think I would love to hear you tell us some of your wines that we should look for the holidays.
One moment before you reply, Michele, we have a question from Joan wanting to know where to obtain your wines. So you have a customer here who would like to buy.
Absolutely. So we are located just south of Taos if you are in the area. So on Highway 68, and we're open every day. If you are out of the area, you can shop on our website, www.vivacwinery.com. And we are also on pretty much every social media platform that you can imagine. So you can also message us if you have questions. But those are the easiest ways. We're also in quite a bit of stores. We are in Medley and Del Norte Liquor up in Taos. And then we...
OBL or no?
OBL is Medley.
Oh, yeah.
We're old school.
What's the one below the gorge?
Parched.
Parched.
I don't think Parched is open anymore.
Okay, never mind.
But thanks for participating. But then if you are south, we're in Total Wine stores. We're in Whole Foods stores. We have a list on our website too.
Thank you. Now, sorry, I got you off track. So please talk to Johnny's thought there.
Which was?
Give me your holiday 4 reds, 4 whites, what we should bring for the holidays.
Yes. Okay. So,
and then Michele, send me the samples of all of those.
Yes, of course.
No.
We are about to release our next vintage of Rosé of Sangiovese, which we actually won a double gold at an entirely rosé competition that was international wines from all over the world. So just rosés sent in from Italy and France and Spain, you name it, across the United States, a double gold.
Wow.
Just to, you know, throw it out there. So that's about to be released probably at the end of next week.
Maybe. Yeah.
And, but we do still have our phenomenal rosé of Cabernet. Rosé is just such an easy one to have on hand. It pairs so easily. You're always going to have a win, and it's a crowd pleaser. We also have a phenomenal Chardonnay that is unoaked. Speaking of your Chablis Johnny Vee, Chablis is an unoaked Chardonnay from France, and it just is an incredible amount of minerality and complexity. It's very delicious. I highly recommend having that on hand as well. We also have a long list of incredible reds that have been winning awards all over the place. We are currently drinking our Montepulciano, which won a gold medal at the Berliner Wine Trophy, which is an extremely prestigious competition in Berlin, Germany. And the idea there is that if you are in the very top 30% of rankings, you get a medal. So you can get awarded the points of a gold and not get a medal. So you have to be very, very, very high ranking, and we got a medal for it. So just to say, you know, I think it should be on your table. We also have
wearing the medal. Where's the medal? Where's the damn medal?
I've got I'm not wearing it. I'm wearing my Zia with wine bottles as the.
That's good. I like it.
Our logo shirt. But yeah, no. Also, Nebbiolo goes really great with the holiday meal. Also, we don't have one right now.
Yes, we do.
Pinot Noir.
I just bought a Pinot Noir on
Saturday.
You do have a Pinot Noir.
That's right. Cool.
And then for some interest in some of those fleur-bodied things, at some point there was a mention of elk, and we actually eat a lot of elk because Jesse is a hunter as well. And our Petit Rideau, which is from our organically farmed vineyard up here at 6,000 feet, is phenomenal with it. And our Alianico is also phenomenal with game meat and chocolate.
Oh yeah.
Another food group.
We are nearing the end of our hour. This went by really quickly, and it was such fun. I'm very grateful to you all, Michele and Jesse and Chef Johnny, of course, for joining us. I have a few announcements to make, just real quick. But before I do that, can you just share again for people where they can share your websites, where they can get a hold of you?
So my cooking school is in the DeVargas Center, right off the road from Taos. And it's a gorgeous kitchen shop. So you need all your kitchen equipment. And my website for my classes is lascosascooking.com. So LASCOSAS cooking.com. If you Google Chef Johnny Vee, you'll get directed there as well. And my cookbook is all different topics, chapters based on ingredients. So I sell those through my website. But I'd love you all to come down and cook. We have a great time.
Thank you. And of course, Vivác.com, vivacwinery.com.
Vivacwinery.com, and on all of your social media platforms. That's our handle as well, Vivác Winery. And if you guys want me to help you out with any pairings, it's Michele, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, at vivacwinery.com. Happy to help.
Thank you.
And hire Michele to come and do a wine tasting at a party.
Yeah,
I can do that too.
I was going to say,
turning with ideas as well. So,
if I could give you the last word, basically what you've said is that the food plus the wine cancels politics.
Yes. Yeah. And that's always a good thing.
Always a good thing. The best thing. And so I want to thank my friend and our moderator, Sarah, for joining us and just leading the conversation. I so appreciate you, Sarah. Announcements on the museum end. The museum is now open 6 days a week. We're on our winter hours, so we are closed on Wednesdays. Every other day we're open 10 to 5. We will be open Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, our regular hours till 5. So if people want to do shopping in the museum store, Christmas Eve, for their wives, Jesse.
Oh, that shop is amazing. Oh, such great things.
And then also, so this Saturday is our first in-person community day. This is a 25-year ongoing event that we've had. It's the first time we've been able to do the in-person event. It's free to the public. It's family, arts and crafts, multicultural, community performances, a visit from Santa.
How fun.
So super fun. Come out, tell your friends. I think that's been on our social media as well. And then also purchase, Millicent's having the museum's having a Millicent ball this year. It's a black tie, Taos black tie, and it's New Year's Eve. That's on our website as well. You can purchase tickets for that through the website. So that's,
and Karen, Taos black tie means all you have to do is polish your boots.
That's right.
Right? Okay.
Polish your boots, tighten up that bolo.
Yeah.
And join us on New Year's Eve.
Brush the hat off.
It's at the Taos Country Club.
Oh,
Information available at www.millicentrogers.org. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. That was so fun. Thanks, you guys.
Salud.
Salud.